Welcome to episode 275. God, 275 of Friars on the Farm. Dude, 275 episodes we are at.
Makes me feel old.
It makes me feel old. It's funny because I occasionally I'll mention the podcast to people or Padre fans in my restaurant community and are in my community and they're, yeah, oh yeah, really, oh yeah, yeah. And, I'll mention like Mackenzie Gore and I'm like, oh God, yeah, that was like 2018 when we talked to him,
Yeah.
when we were, when he was an A-ball, like, holy cow, that was a real long, that was a real long time ago.
Well, we're still at it. Here we still are. We're here today to talk about a couple of debuts and a whole bunch of news up and down the Padres organization.
Yeah, absolutely. We had some call-ups and some guys that we've covered for a while and make their major league debuts. It's really fun. But first, guys, we're still selling the Zamo shirt. I wore it yesterday all day. We're selling it. The link will be in the description notes, in the show notes down below. But it goes to help the El Paso Crisis Child Center. This is what happens when you don't rehearse. It's a really good organization. All the money that they get from the community is how they run. They get no federal funds. I'm sure they get a little bit of state funds, but most of it is by the kindness of your heart. Dude, it's a really cool shirt. I love my shirt. It feels great. It fits well. I'm an extra large, and it's a little bit big. It's a larger extra large. I don't know because it's from Texas. It's not like a
Everything's
California.
bigger in Texas.
Dude, I get a shirt here in California, San Diego that's extra large, and it's like, am I getting too big? Like, is that too big? But a Texas XL is perfect. Really high quality shirt, guys, and all the money that we make from it goes to them. Now the penny goes in our pocket. So please buy the shirt. I talked to Dave this week. He said their sales are here and there, but we're excited for anything that we can give to this organization. It is very dear to the El Paso Chihuahuas. Yeah.
All right, so let's move. So we got some major league news to talk about, but this morning, I don't know if you saw, Dennis Lin dropped an article, and in there he discussed that apparently the Padres have been in contact with the Red Sox about outfielder Jarren Duran. One-time All-Star, he won a All-Star Game MVP, but he's a young, talented, on the way up kind of a player. He's got another year of team control after this one, and he's an outfielder. So the Padres clearly, whatever's been happening in left field doesn't seem like a fix for a team with playoff aspirations, right? So you've had Jason Hayward, Brandon Lockridge. They've been trying Gavin Sheets out there. He face planted into the wall yesterday. I was there, and the sound that large human made
Womp.
running into that wall was pretty loud. It's a big thump. Glad to hear today. Sounds like he passed all the tests, and he's going to be available off the bench. Hopefully, avoid an injured list stint, but still all the different options that they've tried in left field,
It's
nobody seems like a solution. So they're looking outside, and they can improve at catcher, they can improve starting pitching depth, but clearly the biggest upgrade would be finding somebody in left field.
Absolutely, and I love how Schulte just has a presence of mind and goes, I think the wall's okay too.
That was a great
Yeah,
line.
yeah. I don't know anything about Jarren Duran, and but I do know that I saw on Twitter right before we came on that he was suspended last year by the Red Sox for a anti-gay slur, and the money that he lost on those 2 days or how many days he was suspended by the team. By the team, dude, this isn't MLB. This is the team going, you can't do that. Went to the local anti-lesbian, the family, a federation of LGBTQ plus families. I don't know if we want someone with that kind of baggage. I know all ball players have their own baggage. Most of the time it's not really out there in the public, but I don't know. I just I think, and he's going to cost a lot, right? I keep seeing a lot of these trade scenarios, and some of them are batch, are crazy. I don't know if we want to give up so much for someone. I think Preller's going to Preller, and that's all I have to really trust in, that he's going to get someone, and it'll be like for a bucket of balls and some 19th round guy. one of the things about some of the guys in the system that have kind of popped up, like your Romeo Sanabrias and your Braden Nets, guys that were undrafted free agents. You had 11th rounder in Sanabria, where they're pretty attractive pieces, and we'll see if it takes that level of player or even higher to get a left fielder. But we definitely do need a left fielder. We'll see how it goes, but watch. I mean, believe me, I know it's been a lot, been in the news for a while that they've been after him. But I think other teams might be able to trade in a left fielder that might not cost as much and might have a little more team control, maybe even a little bit better fit. We'll see. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, last year apparently the Padres were in talks with them about Duran as well. But we saw Taylor Ward come through with the Angels. He hit a big grand slam against the Padres that didn't uh didn't make me happy, but
Right.
you try to switch the uniform, you go, yeah, if that guy was in a Padres uniform, I'd feel pretty good about it. And then the Marlins just came through and they've got a couple of interesting guys. I mean, there's players available out there. So like you said, are you going to back up the truck and unload a bunch of prospects for one guy, or are you going to try to look a tier or two below for somebody who's at least a competent defender and isn't a black hole in your lineup? Um, but so Duran, as you said, he did go and reach out to local organizations to try to make some amends for the things that he said. And he's also been outspoken about his personal struggles with mental health, which is
Okay.
something that we talk about frequently.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I'm not going to defend using that kind of language. I do know that when I grew up, when I was a kid, words were thrown around without really understanding what they meant
Right.
and what kind of impact they would have on other people. I'm grateful that social media wasn't a thing back in the day because
Oh
you
my
know
God. No,
um,
absolutely. Growing up myself, we always use the F word or G word or and slurs because it's just it's what you do when you're kids. And I'm grateful to have evolved and hearing that he reached out and make amends, to organizations because we all have our moments of weakness and and say stupid stuff in the heat of the moment in frustration or whatever. So I can appreciate that he's done that. He seems like he might have learned. I don't even know anything about him. Is he a power guy? Is he a really good bat? Is he a defensive guy? I mean, is he signable to an extension?
all good questions. Um, I mean, he's considered to be a pretty good outfielder defensively. I'm trying to pull up his Fangraphs numbers right now. The last couple of years, he's been 20 and 30% better than MLB average as
Okay.
far as offense.
Okay.
So pretty good bat. Let's see, he slugged 492 last year, slugged 482 the year before that. So that's pretty solid offense. And defensively, he grades out pretty average as a center fielder, but you'd be putting him in left field. He's been playing
Yeah.
center field mostly for the Red Sox. Center field is in Boston is smaller, where in NL, National League West parks, you got more room to cover. But I always felt like San Diego, you kind of need three center fielders out
You
there
do.
to
You
cover
do.
all that ground. And then Dodger Stadium's huge, and San Francisco is huge. And then you get to Colorado, it's just ridiculous.
So real quick, left-handed bat, right-handed bat.
Left-handed bat.
Okay, so that Fenway's pretty small ballpark. I would say a right-handed bat. There's a lot more to those numbers that little more. You hit a pop fly and you're hitting it off the monster. But a left-handed bat is another. Is at a premium too. We have a lot of left-handed bats in the lineup, but it would not hurt to have another left-handed bat.
Right. All right, so we've got a little bit of injury news coming around. Matt Waldron is officially off the injured list. He was optioned to El Paso yesterday. So great news there. So expect to see him in that shuttle at the back end of the rotation. I'm
Yep.
sure we'll see him soon enough. Ryan Berger, I was going to say before I got to that, Brian Hoeing, he's been in Double A doing rehab work,
Yep.
and I'm sure we're going to see him back very soon, which is great. The bullpen, we've started to see the bullpen show some weakness,
Yeah.
some cracks.
Cracks.
There's only so much. Yeah, you need the depth. The guys need rest, and so if you can start cycling people in and out, that's great. And so that's why the next couple of names we're going to talk about here, guys are making their debut because guys need rest. Guys are going to start. They need a break. hopefully, knock on wood, we haven't had any major injuries yet in the bullpen, but it's just part of the game. And then the latest news today, Ryan Bergert is on the taxi squad with the team. They traveled up to San Francisco, and he is lined up to make the start tomorrow. They can't officially say that because he's not on the big league roster, but
Right before
all you
got
read
on,
between the tea leaves, and it's all there.
Mike Schultz said that he was going to start tomorrow.
Oh, okay. There
So
you go.
yeah, it's pre-game presser stuff. They're all putting that stuff out on X. So he said, yeah, he's starting tomorrow. Super stoked. Want him to stick. And I think with the struggles of Hart have been like, if you don't throw absolute gas, and if you're a control pitcher and you need to hit your spots, you have to absolutely be on. And we can't wait around for every second or every third start for him to be on. Like, we need guys to perform right away, especially just recently as the lineup has been struggling at the plate, and runs have been at a premium. I almost turned the game off yesterday when it got to 3-0. I'm like, okay, what shows do we have to watch? And we kept the game on, but it's like right now it's tough to get runs. And I understand, we talk about this every episode the past 3 weeks now that they've struggled, that teams go through this. I think the Yankees took 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers this weekend. But we're going into the month of June, and it is the gauntlet. It is, we talk about the NL West being Thunderdome. We are entering Thunderdome, certainly in this next few weeks.
So Ryan Bergert, he's been up before. He's been up in 2 separate stints now, and he's only made relief appearances so far. So I'm excited to see him make a start. He's been a starter pretty much exclusively in his minor league career. So it's different to be asked to pitch out of the bullpen. I know that this is something like Tony La Russa always believed in with his guys, that you bring him in, you give him a little taste, a couple innings here as a reliever, and then once they show that they're ready, then you let them start. So he got the jitters, he got all the firsts out of the way, the being overwhelmed by being in a crowd with 40,000 fans and all that stuff. Now he can just go through his routine, settle in, and pitch, execute his game plan, be ready to go 5-6 innings, whatever the game gives him.
Well, we're going to go right into introducing the new guys because, with Bergert pitching, he doesn't have to be in the bullpen. David Morgan got the call up later this week. I didn't see his debut. I missed it. But he made, so let me just read this. So he got the call up last week, made a good impression getting 2 quick outs in the debut on May 26th, then gave up a 2-out solo shot in between striking out the side. The 4th generation San Diegan is assigned as an undrafted free agent out of Hope International University in Fullerton. And just yesterday pitched the gem. He I think he struck out the side, right?
It was a clean inning. I don't recall if they were all strikeouts or what, but yeah, he was looking dominant.
I saw him. He got a couple of strikeouts at least, and I watched it. So this is from Mad Fires. Quote, "It's kind of hard to put all this into words. The dream is to make it to the big leagues, but to make it in the stadium you grew up going to is beyond that," Morgan said. "To sit in that bullpen and know that I have an opportunity to play here is beyond special to me." He didn't start pitching until 2022 for 8 games at Orange Coast Community College, where he was an outfielder. Then during the summer league, he did well enough to catch the eye of the Padres and was invited to a private workout and signed soon after. Undrafted free agent, dude. And here's where I think the great thing about having the lower, having only so many rounds for the draft is you get these undrafted free agents. You get these guys in the 18th round that it's a little bit better, those guys got to dig a little deeper to find the talent. But certainly you get these great stories where undrafted free agents go, we talked about it a second ago, Braden Nett, undrafted free agents that just somehow skipped through the cracks in the draft, and the Padres have picked up a couple really good undrafted free agents. A few guys in the system also that on the other side of the ball that have been really good as well. So his arsenal is a 4-seam fastball that's excellent movement and sits 98 to 99 with a high 80 slider and a mid 90 sinker. So that high octane velocity and high velocity slider will get major leaguers out. and on the reg.
So Mad Friars, they put out an article kind of summarizing their prior conversations with David and including this quote you just read.
Yeah.
The thing that stood out to me that he talked about going to that workout with the Padres, or maybe it was some other workout, but anyway, he goes up there and he's throwing his fastball and he realizes that all of these guys here have a fastball like that. And he didn't have anything else. He's like, geez, I need to work on something else. Like, and so you think he's at that point of having workouts in front of big league teams, and he's so fresh to pitching that he's got one tool. He's got
Yeah.
one arrow in that quiver. He just keeps throwing it over and over. So to develop the slider that he's got and the sinker that he has, that's a credit to the work that he put in his final little stint with college, but really what the Padres have done developing him. And so a theme that I've seen with these undrafted free agents is that these guys they tend to come in pretty raw. I
Right.
usually think of college pitchers coming in that they already have kind of their whole thing figured out. And it's just a little tweak this, tweak that. Let's move you over to the other side of the rubber and call it a day. But with Braden Net and Cole Puplum and these guys that they're developing new pitches
Right.
while they're in the organization.
Right.
They're learning how to refine command. They're learning how to condition their bodies and these other things that usually college pitchers come in, they kind of already know that stuff.
Right.
So it's almost like you're getting somebody who's as fresh as a high school pitcher, but physically more developed as a college pitcher, if that makes
No,
any sense.
no, absolutely. And that's what you call a newer arm or a fresher arm. Like he hasn't pitched his whole life. He wasn't pitching in travel ball at, 12. These guys start pitching relatively late in their careers. They can last longer. And the injury and the injuries are, I don't know, maybe a push, but certainly, you have a fresher arm that can go a little bit longer and it's not so much wear and tear on it where there is maybe an injury risk there with these guys. So stoked, and that's, every week we do this, man. Every week we give praise to the organization and pitching development because he mentioned the Padres pitching development team in helping him achieve where he is now, obviously, but also developing as a player. And that's what I think goes underrated about what we talk about. We talk about the players and they play in, every level, but we don't really get a chance to really highlight the development team and the pitching coaches in Lake Elsinore, the pitching coaches back in back at the complex, going up to A ball and high A, just every step. And some guys are great. Some guys move through, some guys, that's as far as they can go. But finding these guys in the raw, and being able to mold them into, quality players is just, you don't see that from a lot of organizations. People talk about the Dodgers and the Braves and teams like that. They have these excellent developing, development systems, but, the Padres, I think, are right there.
I want to lament the loss of the designated hitter of the pitcher hitting.
Oh,
I feel like there's something that okay, so for all those years, I know, yeah, the pitchers they weren't supposed to hit, but they're still going to show up in the lineup in the National League, and so they would still do running drills and bunt drills and all this stuff. And every once in a while, you'd have weird stuff happen. So hearing about somebody like David Morgan, he was an outfielder
yeah.
until just a handful of years ago. So he probably could still go get it. He knows how to run the bases. He can swing a bat a little bit if he needs to. I'm sure, they got to the point where like, okay, the bat's not going to get you there, but the arm will, right? But like I think back to Camarena hitting that home run off of Max Scherzer. Like, oh, it's a blowout game, and like we need somebody to take a bat and just go up there and stand in the box. And what do you know? Something special happens.
Yeah.
Or even back when Andrew Kashner was on the team, he was one of the fastest guys on the team, and they would regularly use him as a pinch runner when it wasn't his day to pitch.
Right.
And I miss those little nuances of the game.
Yeah.
On top of the whole double switch and all the strategy that came with that, miss those fun little things that used to happen when a pitcher would do something you wouldn't expect a pitcher to do.
Absolutely. And there used to be a guy, was it Jake Arrieta? Like there were a couple teams that had a couple pitchers that would come in and they would pinch hit and they would get nuts. I think it was Arrieta. There was a guy for the Diamondbacks. I mean, throughout the whole history of baseball, it's been like that. But I just remember
Micah Owings.
Micah Owings.
Yes.
Hit takes. I mean,
Carlos Zambrano with the Cubs, that guy could mash.
Yeah.
And then Madison Bumgarner. I mean, he could hit pretty well for a pitcher.
Yeah, dude, and he was pinch hitting Mad Bum all the time. Rick for the Cardinals. God, I see
Ankiel,
him.
Rick Ankiel.
Rick
Yeah, Rick
Ankiel.
Ankiel.
I saw that guy in Nashville. Dude, he was a converted pitcher into a pretty damn good outfielder for a handful of years.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so it is a bummer. It is missed. Um, you know, but that's just the development. That's just the evolution of the game. Um,
Yeah, something, and so what we don't have anymore is the one time out of nine in the lineup where it's just a guaranteed out.
right.
And that being the case 90% of the time, I get it. The game's better without, but I miss the wacky stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, while I'm on this pulpit, I'm also gonna say I miss having to throw 4 pitches for an
Oh
intentional
yeah.
walk
Yeah.
because every once in a while the wild pitch would go to the backstop or the pitch would catch a little too much of the plate and the
Back.
batter would poke
Yeah.
it out there and just crazy stuff would happen. Now
Yeah.
they just put up four and the guy runs and everybody the fans look at you like, wait, what just happened? Oh, intentional walk. Oh, okay. Like it's
Yeah.
missing a little bit of that
Yeah.
drama.
Yeah. Doesn't happen often, but when it does, it's a quirky part of the game. And only baseball, I think, allows for those moments where the unexpected, the truly unexpected could happen. Yet it's one of those things where it's unexpected, but so many fans at home are going like, oh, he could, want it to happen, but it's so few, it doesn't happen so often. You only get that in baseball. But we digress. Let's get back on track. Talk about now that we know how to pronounce this thing. Thank you, Sam Levitt. Bradgley Rodriguez, pronounced Bradgley. We've been saying Bradgley. God, this is a California thing to say like that. Made his debut Saturday with an inning and 2/3 scoreless. Induced a ground ball double play on his first pitch to end the seventh. Then got out his first major league K in the final out of the eighth inning. A couple walks in between, but you saw the gas. You saw the devastating changeup. Get it out of the way. He's comfortable now, or hopefully he's comfortable his next time out. But he signed as a 17-year-old out of Venezuela for six figures, so he wasn't unknown. In 2020, had Tommy John surgery in 2022. After rehabbing in 23, the Padres sent him to the Venezuela League, where he struck out 21 in 20 innings as a 20-year-old. So having that Tommy John very early allowed him to get back into the system and start developing. While he was clearly one of the highlights of the Stormers pitching staff going into the year, he quickly jumped from Fort Wayne after he struck out 9 of the 19 batters he faced in 4 outings. For all the attention his high-octane fastball garnered, it was his changeup that outclassed hitters. The change has always been one of my fundamental go-to pitches, Rodriguez told us. It's always been a pitch I've been able to control and have a good feel for. Obviously, I have a strong fastball too, but the changeup is what really allowed me to have some success and bring balance to my fastball. Thank you, Mad Friars. Though his ERA soared to 3.14, I think we talked about that too. For the Missions, he punched out 35% of the batters he faced, dropped his walk rate, and drew consistently weak contact. He was invited to big league camp this last spring and in 18 games had 31 strikeouts and 21 innings this year in San Antonio. And you saw every time he came up, just X. All social media would just start blowing up. There he is. Who is this guy? And those that know, if you know, you know. And other people were like, who is this guy? And everyone's chiming in. This is where he came from. This is what he is. Like, kind of comes out of nowhere. And that's kind of the fun thing about doing our podcast is watching these guys come into the system, have their ups and downs, and some make it to the big leagues and go like, yeah, I remember when watching that glove pop in Elsinore.
Yeah, both of these guys kind of came out of the blue for me. Like
Yeah.
we knew before the season that they saw a decent time in spring training, that the team had a good look at them. But when the call came, I don't think I was necessarily expecting to hear either of their names called
Right.
this early in the season. David Morgan definitely kind of was a helium guy. He before this spring didn't hear a whole lot about him. Where Bradley Rodriguez last year, he made a name for himself in the organization.
Yeah.
But even still, it's like, how long is it going to take? What refinement, whatever. And then boom, here he is. And they both hit the ground running pretty well, to their credit.
Yeah, so his fastball sits 99 and 100 and has a devastating changeup. So that's his 2 pitches. David Morgan, he was in the fall league this last year, and I messaged him like when I was out there, and I I almost went and talked to him. I almost talked to him in the off season, or had us talk to him in the off season. It just one thing led to another, and I didn't. And then lo and behold, he's a big leaguer. He's out of our hands now.
Well, that's all right.
That is all
So
right.
all right, so we got a little MILB minute here before we get to the rundown. Will Varmmette, congratulations, Will Varmmette. He was the California League Pitcher of the Week. His 6 innings of 1 run work earned Cal League Pitcher of the Week honors, dropped his opponent's average on the year to .123. So even if it was probably the second best Storm baseball pitching performance of the week, we'll get to that in the rundown. But congratulations, Will Varmmette. You got another piece of hardware to put up on your mantle.
Absolutely. I thought so I could have swore I've seen him in Fort Wayne. Like I saw him up higher in the system. Just maybe injury, kind of brought him up for that 1 or 2 starts last year, I think. But this year he's been in Elsinore.
In 2023, he pitched in Fort Wayne and Lake Elsinore, and then the same last year he pitched both Fort Wayne and Lake Elsinore. So I don't know if there's injuries that have been kind of holding him back or what, but he's kind of doing the bob and weave, and you
Yeah,
get a little breakthrough, and next thing you know, he rockets up the system.
absolutely.
He's how old is he? He is 22.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
not particularly old. That's, college senior age. So
yep.
still fairly young for the level. Let's see. On he's point 0.2. So baseball reference says what their age is compared to the average age of everybody in the league.
Right.
So he's 2/10 of a year older than the average player in the Cali League, which means even though it's his third year in that level, it's not a detriment. He's
Yeah,
right where age wise, he's right where he would belong. But like I said, a couple other good weeks and he might be back in his bags.
absolutely. So hey, that's it. We'll be right back with the affiliate rundown. Boom. Okay.
All right, firing off the affiliate rundown. Let's start with Lake Elsinore. Painting the corners. Boston Bateman was back on his regular full throwing schedule on Tuesday and cruised through 5 innings against the Ports. Last year's second round pick racked up 50 strikes in 77 pitches despite a pair of walks and a hit batter. In 8 contests so far, the 6'8" behemoth sports a 4.08 ERA, though his strong 26.5% strikeout rate and 9.5% walk rate translate to a slightly rosier 3.65 FIP. Two things. We're going to start watching guys build up their workload. They're
Yep.
going deeper into games. Their pitch limits are going up. They're throwing more innings. They're facing more batters. That's all great. That's we want to see that. And then the other thing is scouting the stat line. We talk about that.
Yep.
You're down in Lake Elsinore, the defense playing behind him. These are guys that it's their first year, second year in pro ball. Maybe guys are playing out of position, working on something different. So defense is all over the place. On top of that, the field conditions, they do a great job at Lake Elsinore,
Yep.
but you look at the conditions down at Petco Park, and it's like playing baseball on a pool table.
Right.
And you don't get bad hops. You don't get the weird, you get the weird spin ball, but you don't get where it hits a freaking molehill and bounces over your head. So the FIP is more important than the ERA when you're looking at that. That takes the defense out of the equation. You're looking at walks, strikeouts, home runs, things that the defense doesn't have any factor in. And so the fact that his FIP is performing better than his ERA, that suggests that he is better than his box score tells you.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Right now, it's all about development. In A ball, it's his first year. He's just trying to get his feet underneath him. And we every time we talk to the pitching coach in Elsinore, it's like these guys are just learning about themselves physically, mentally. It's a grind. This is their first time. College. What did they play? 25, 30 games. Maybe a little more than that. And they're pitching maybe, they're not pitching not many innings. So it's a whole new ball game once you get into pro ball. And with someone like that who's just learning the venom in the fastball, he's plenty fine and he's doing great. And I think, the more than anything, it's the way he carries himself on the mound. it's like him and Tyson Neighbors. They I can't wait to get those two guys in the same room. Just, Bateman's just a huge beam. He's just a big boy. You saw him Sasquatch, right? And Tyson Neighbors is like, it's like Starsky and Hutch. Like Bateman's like the muscle, and Neighbors is gonna be like let's go, come on. Come on,
He's like a
Boston.
he's like a
Okay,
pit
let's
bull
go.
next to him.
You know, God, that's almost like a great shirt if we ever make that into a shirt, those two guys. Um, but I digress.
So another part of that is learning how to be a pro. And
Yeah,
baseball turns from something that is fun that you're doing with your boys and you're doing it a couple times a week. Like in college, they're playing on the weekends. They're not playing 6 days a week. And
yeah,
now 6 days a week, you're away from your family. Your family is now your teammates. Your friends are your teammates. Your whole life is in that locker room. And then doing that for 150 games, and it's a grind.
yeah,
And there are days when it's not fun and days where you don't feel great. You still need to go out there and perform and show the team that you can still kick butt when you're not at your best. And
yeah,
that's hard to do.
yeah,
So continuing, righty Adam Conrad continued his impressive run to begin his pro career, tossing 3 more innings of scoreless baseball. The 22-year-old righty, who became the first player out of Carolina University to reach professional baseball when he signed as an undrafted free agent last year, has yet to allow an earned run in over 21 and two-thirds innings of relief. Opponents are hitting just 110 against him, which has helped him thrive despite allowing 15 walks. He's now worked at least 3 innings in 4 of his 10 outings. So not only is he dominant, he's given you volume with that
yeah,
dominance.
yeah,
Maybe what they're waiting for before punching his ticket to go up to another level is to bring that walk rate down a little
yeah,
bit. Because that's, the Padres, they want to see the guys pounding the strike zone, fill
yeah.
up the strike zone.
Yeah. And when you go up, the pressure ratchets it up a little bit higher. The competition's a little bit better. But to kind of go back to the grind, a family friend of ours son works for MLB in New York. He got it his first year. He does he pulls together clips, and we were talking to him last night because he texted us. He's like, Gavin Sheets, is he okay? I'm like, oh, he was chewing gum. He'll be fine. And we asked him about his job. He's like, it's a grind. Like, even like there's so many baseball games, and not only for just the individual player, but like when you work for MLB, like there's so many games on the screen. It is absolutely a grind, this sport. So it's a grind for everywhere you go in this sport when it comes to professional baseball. But Luis Gutierrez, okay, this kid, we'll get here into a second, but was masterful in Lake Elsinore with a 1-0 win over the Stockton Port. The Southpaw worked 8 shutout innings, allowing just 3 hits, 1 walk, striking out 7. Gutierrez's outing was efficient as he needed just 87 pitches to complete the longest outing of the year in the Padres system. So going 8 innings, ladies and gentlemen, in any level of baseball, professional baseball, is almost unheard of. Like, you're 5 and dive, you're 6, maybe occasionally with a really good outing, you're going to be there in the 7th inning. But having a kid 21 years old hitting, getting through the 8th inning, and I saw the video of him walking out just pumped, it is really a huge feat. So he threw 72% of his pitches for strikes. The fastball set 91 to 94 for most of the outing. However, his most impressive pitch was undoubtedly his mid-80s changeup. It flashed superb arm side fade all afternoon, helping him keep hitters guessing and generate 3 double play grounders and made a ton of soft contact. That has Clark Farrenhold written all over it, and that's true. He posted an 18% whiff rate on the way to lowering his ERA to 2.8 in 45 innings this season. Originally signed as a key member of the 2019 international free agent class, Gutierrez fought the yips for most of the 3 years he's played in the organization. So this is, and ladies and gentlemen, it's baseball, so you know what the yips are. You want to throw it that way, it goes that way, and you can't. It's a mental thing. So to see this happen, take this big step forward for him is huge. So for the last 4 starts, 24 innings pitched, he's only given up 10 hits, only 2 earned runs, 3 runs total. He's had 25 Ks with 7 base on balls and a 27-17 ground ball to fly out rate. So that he has found something. Let him keep going,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's so limiting the walks. That's what that's
Yep.
about. So you have a hard time. I mean, we talk about command, but that's about control.
Yeah.
Control is being able to throw strikes.
Yeah.
Command is being able to locate pitches in quadrants of the strike zone. Before you even get to talking about control, command, guys have to be able to control the ball. And when you got a guy that I mean, he's always had good strikeout rate numbers, but when he's missing the middle of the strike zone, he's missing bad. And that's what you get. A batter can just start like spitting on everything. And
Yeah.
how are you going to be successful like that? So happy that he's turned a corner there. All right, so moving next, I think we're going to hear the name Kavares Tears a lot as this summer goes by. Kavares Tears had 3 more hits on Friday, giving him 8 over the last 3 games. The former Tennessee outfielder had 2 singles and connected on his 5th homer of the season. 22-year-old started the year on the injured list with a hamstring issue that continues to keep him out of the field, but he's gotten better as the season progressed. He's hitting 302, 373, 510 in May with
Yeah.
8 doubles and 4 home runs. And then Victor Figueroa, we've been talking about Victor Figueroa
Yep.
ascending through the ACL like a rocket. Well, he's hit the ground running in the California League. He homered to left center, his only hit on Friday night. The first baseman crushed a pitch over the right center field wall, and like many Padres prospects, he emulated Fernando Tatis Jr.'s hop before hitting the third base bag. This is something we've seen a few guys. I think Tears did that too.
Yeah.
After making the ACL his personal playground, the Florida native has cooled off a bit since joining the Storm. In 11 ACL games, he had a 1.922 OPS. I don't know how that number has decreased to a still impressive 879 OPS in 10
Yeah.
Cali League. 79 is a really good OPS.
Yeah.
That's very, very good. So it's kind of I feel a little like we're doing the man a disservice saying that he's come down from his 1.922 is like a good week for Barry Bonds, peak Barry Bonds. Like what he was doing in the ACL was just insane.
Yeah.
So yeah, Victor Figueroa. So the little hop, it's funny because Tatis, he's got his swag, his style, and he's got that little stutter step perfected. So it's funny seeing the guys impersonate it. It's like more like a hop and a skip. Like
Right.
it's a little different the way they do it, but it takes a lot of practice to look. I could practice the rest of my life, and I will never look as good as Fernando Tatis Jr. doing anything. Going to pick up the newspaper. There's no way.
Right. So Sunday, while Victor Figueroa didn't record a hit, he reached base twice via walk. In 48 plate appearances in Lowe, he has a 14.5% walk rate. As good as he's been here early, it is worth noting that he owns a 32% whiff rate and a lower end 68.5 in zone contact rate. So there's some development there. When he hits the ball, he hits it far, he hits it hard. There's still a lot of swing and miss in that, but you can expect that with a higher level. Every level, even in going from the complex to A ball, you're in a higher level. You got some guys that are just absolutely dominant in A ball. Other guys are just going to whiz in there. So there's lots to dream on with Victor Figueroa. We talked about it off air. Having them find guys like Sanabria and Figueroa deep late in rounds and watch them just blossom into players.
Well, and that walk rate tells me that he's at least identifying
Yeah.
the bad pitches to stay away from. So maybe he's trying to swing at some pitches he probably doesn't have any business swinging at, but the stuff that's out of the zone, he's laying off it. That's a really good sign.
Absolutely. So then on Sunday, as Kavares Tears extended his hitting streak to 5 games with a 1-for-4 day at the dish. It capped off what had been an explosive week offensively. He went 11 for 26 with a pair of long balls and 3 doubles. May has been a big step in the right direction for Tears. He posted a 140 WRC plus, a 417 WOBA, and an 11% walk rate and 104 at bats. Even with all the success, strikeouts remain an issue for Tears, who's punched out 21 out of 26 games for the month. Once again, you can be a little too aggressive. It's all about development. So, you see the underlying numbers is what you want to see. The other stuff like the strikeout rates and whiff rates in these guys are just development and ways to learn.
Right. And we know the guys in the player development office, they aren't looking at the highlight reel stuff.
Yeah.
They aren't necessarily looking at the power numbers. They're looking at plate discipline. They're looking at quality of contact. They've got a whole bunch of different data because now all these ballparks have the Hawkeye system, so they can see, what kind of quality of contact these guys are making and what kind of pitches they're swinging at, and what they're staying away from. So a little bit of injury news. Lefty Cash Mayfield left his last outing on May 13th with shoulder discomfort. He met with medical staff and he's been cleared. Because he's so young and he will have his workload managed throughout the year, the organization has him working back slowly. He'll throw a side and a live bullpen this week. He should be back in game action next week.
Nice.
Yeah, first year pro ball. It's I don't know how many games they throw in high school, but it certainly isn't 20 plus starts. And
Yeah,
so it's a long season. These guys are learning how to condition their bodies as well as their mind. So yeah, anytime somebody has a little slowdown, let's take a couple weeks, get you straight, and then get back on there.
absolutely.
All right, so moving on to Fort Wayne. Painting the corners, righty Eric Yost continued his stellar month. He turned in his second official quality start last Sunday. Northeastern grad struck out 8 across 6 1/3 innings pitched, giving up 1 run on 1 hit. Yost's 1.76 ERA is second best in the Midwest League. His 8.3% walk rate is seventh, while his 3.29 walk per nine is eighth. He leads the team in strikeouts and innings pitched. In May, he's 2 for 2, 2 wins, 2 losses, with a 1.46 ERA, striking out 27 while walking 8. On May 4th, he gave up just 1 run across 7 innings, striking out a career high 11. Yesterday, he allowed more than 3 runs in an outing for the first time this year.
Yep.
Still, Sunday was a productive outing for the right-hander as he worked 5 innings, allowing 4 earned runs on 4 hits and a walk while striking out 6. So you're going to have little bumps as
Yeah.
things go along, but I mean, that's about as consistent as you're going to find for a guy in the Midwest League.
Yeah, he needed to get on the agenda, and the past couple weeks I saw I'm like, let's get someone else on there, but he's doing really well. And another guy who's had kind of a struggle this year, did really well this weekend was Isaiah Lowe. So Saturday, Isaiah Lowe got the start as he continues to get back on track following a rough start of the season. Like it was tough. After posting a 10.38 ERA in just 8 2/3 innings across 4 starts in April, he's been much better in May with a 4.29 ERA in 5 starts and 21 innings. The primary focus for Lowe has been to get him into games more quickly, as many of his struggles have occurred in the first inning. Saturday, he gave up a two-out solo homer in the first, but allowed just 2 more hits into the fifth inning. He issued 2 of his 3 walks in the fifth as he reached a season-high 88 pitches. I watched a little bit of that. He had the slider working really well, and guys were diving for it. So they were getting that butt out and swinging for it. He looked really good. Moving on, Josh Malitz, who got the
Mallets?
win. Mallets. Sounds like a food, right? I'm gonna have some mallets, some mallets. Who got the win with the 2 1/3 innings of scoreless relief, has also shown significant improvement in May. He now sports a 1.23 ERA in 14 2/3 innings this month after posting a 9.42 ERA in April. Remember, guys, in Fort Wayne, not only is it better competition, but it is incredibly cold. In April, it is freezing cold. And I don't know who has great numbers in the Midwest League in April overall, but as it gets warmer, guys started getting a little bit better feel for the ball. They're not throwing a frozen ball or having their hands, can't feel the seams. So watching these guys start to light up light up some of the scoreboards is really good.
Yeah, you take those April numbers and you just wad them up and you throw them away.
Just getting their arm strength. He's 23, signed as an undrafted free agent from the University of Mississippi last summer. He has 35 strikeouts against 11 walks and 29 innings on the season. So once again, we're not scouting the stat line, but you want to see the strikeouts high and the walks low.
So on the screws, Leo DeVries casts a broad shadow. When you're on a team, when you're a teammate with somebody like Leo DeVries, it's got to be hard to make a name for yourself because everybody's looking for where's that guy. So while DeVries has garnered most of the headlines this season, fellow middle infielder Brandon Butterworth has performed well as well. The North Carolina native, who played shortstop in college but has seen most of his playing time this season at second base, has a 781 OPS and 9 extra base hits in May, including 4 triples. Now, he's only playing off a shortstop because DeVries is there.
Right.
And I would imagine that there are people in the organization that would argue that Butterworth is the better defender, at least today.
Right.
I think it's one of these situations where Butterworth, from what I've seen in spring training and what I've seen so far, he's a very sure-handed kind of a guy. He's got really good fundamentals. He's got very good footwork. So he always seems to be making the right decisions and all that kind of stuff, where DeVries is he's a little bit of a wild Mustang. He'll make some crazy, flashy plays, but then he'll boot the one that's right to him, or he'll crank up and just try to put everything behind a ball that you didn't need to throw at 101 miles an hour.
Right.
85 probably would have gotten the guy out, and it would have been a more accurate throw. Things that come with time. So then left fielder Jack Costello, and friend of the podcast, got off to a miserable start in April, hitting just 202, which I didn't understand how, after what he did last year, like,
Right.
you can't strike the guy out. All he does is put the ball in play and he's pretty hard. Like, how is he struggling so much? So in May, he pushed his average to 289, but the power he showed last year has all but evaporated. In 2024, the 24-year-old has homered 6 times in 25 games. This season, he has just 3 home runs in 41 games. Overall, he carries a 599 OPS for the TinCaps. Part of that, I'm sure you can attribute some of it to the weather.
Right.
A lot of it probably goes to the slightly more advanced pitching you see in high A.
Yeah.
These guys, they at least know how to control a couple of pitches. They have at least an idea of how to sequence things. So now it's adjustments. So he sees the pitchers are adjusting to him. Now he needs to make his adjustments to get back to where he's hitting laser beams around the field rather than hard hit ground balls.
Right. And you also, a part of this is learning when you're struggling, you just kind of keep with you stick with your approach. A lot of times these guys, they start struggling. They try to change things. They want to try harder. You know, in baseball, you don't try so hard. So a lot of that also on the field side development, but it's also on the emotional side and kind of sticking with the program.
Right. And actually, you know what? I just pulled up his numbers and he's actually the opposite of what I thought. He's hitting the ball on the ground less. He's hitting the ball in the air more, which means, but it's more like infield fly balls, more pop-ups. So last year, unsustainable, 23% of his fly balls left the park. And that's not sustainable for anybody.
Right.
This year, 5.3%, that's low. And that's either a result of not hitting the ball hard or getting underneath it too much. So probably some combination in between of the two.
Yeah. All right, so painting the corners, back-to-back bad outings. Jagger Haynes ended the month on an incredibly high note. After back-to-back bad outings, not only did the 22-year-old lefty not allow an earned run over 6+ innings, but he did not allow a ball leave the infield until the 6th inning. Through 5 innings, Haynes allowed 1 run, 1 walk. Sorry. Through 5 innings, Haynes allowed only 1 walk, and he subsequently picked off the runner at first. Bing! The only member to left of the 2020 draft class will finish May with a 3.55 ERA and 11.1 K to 9 for the month. That is fantastic. It would have been hard for Henry Baez to match Haynes' start, but the 22-year-old also did not allow an earned run despite needing 64 pitches to get through 4 1/3 innings. While it might have been a quick hook for Baez, but was coming up. While it might have been a quick hook for Baez, the only hitter to make hard contact off Baez was coming up and was already 2 for 2 off him. Baez finished the month not allowing earned run over the last 3 starts. That's 15 1/3 inning, 2/3 innings pitched, with a 1 ERA and a 7.2 K to 9 rate overall. So 2 really good months from 2 of the promising prospects in the system.
Yeah, and then some nice news. Luis Patino looked sharp for his first start in San Antonio, and Emmanuel Pinales secured his AA win as the Missions defeated the Travelers by a score of 4-2. The Missions have claimed 7 wins in their last 8 games. The piggyback situation worked perfection as San Antonio only needed Patino and Pinales to get back in the win column. Coutinho and Arkansas starter Adam Seminaris battled back and forth as they each made their way through 4 scoreless frames. For the former big leaguer Coutinho, 4 full innings marked the longest he's gone in 2025 as he works his way back from Tommy John surgery. You know, it's a long road back from Tommy John, but my feel-good story would be to see him back at Petco Park at some point this year, and I think it's possible.
Yeah, well, it's they're picking guys out of AA all the time, and pitching right now for the Padres is a premium. Guys like Ryan Brigger coming up. There's, I would love to see that. I just want to see him get through the season healthy. Petco could be, things. A lot of bad things have to happen for him being able to get to Petco this year. But I just want to see him end the year on a positive note, get his innings in, build up that strength, and then see what next year takes him as he gets into spring training. And that's our little baby rattlesnake's all grown up now.
Yep. Well, so earlier we were talking about left field being a opportunity for the Padres to improve, but behind the plate, they're not getting the same kind of performance that a lot of other teams had. It makes me miss guys like Kyle Higashioka, Gary Sanchez that came before him. We were spoiled by a couple of diamonds in the rough, people
right?
that we didn't think were really going to perform, and then all of a sudden they're a centerpiece of the lineup that are holding guys together. And this year, Elias Diaz is doing okay. Martin Maldonado, it's pretty clear the bat doesn't play, but he's doing all right defensively. But the team's got to be looking for opportunities to get better. And I think there's one in the minors they might want to take a look at. So Matt Friars pointed out on May 30th, for the second night in a row, Padres catching prospect Brandon Valenzuela homers for the Missions. He's hitting 333, 408, 540 for the month and handles the staff well. I haven't seen a whole lot about his defense. The write-ups I have seen say that he's a pretty good framer. He's got a pretty strong arm. And can probably improve a little bit with blocking, but who can't? But then the Mad Friars, again, from yesterday, he broke the scoreless tie with the one-out double to plate the Manfred Man, and I love that they called him the Manfred Man. That's the extra inning runner that starts on second base, blinded by the light. The backstop also had a walk on the day. His OPS now sits at 815 with a 134 WRC plus. That means he's hitting 34% better than the average hitter in the AA Texas League.
Yep.
His plate discipline remains solid as a switch hitter, boasts a 10.9% walk rate, and is only chasing 24% of the time. Valenzuela also impressed behind the dish as the 24-year-old gunned down 3 would-be base stealers in the win. He's thrown out 38.6% of runners on the year. So he understands how to control the running game. He's got some pretty good plate discipline. He's able to square the ball up and hit the ball with authority. And it sounds like his pitchers like working with him. So I could see a point in time where the Padres decide to give him a try. It's been interesting to me. Okay, Luis Campusano, he's come up, and I know you're on the Campusano train. He's over with the big league team. He'll go down to AAA and he'll just absolutely mash the snot out of the ball. And then he comes up and he doesn't seem to have much of an approach. He's working some good walks, but he hasn't. I haven't seen him hit one hard at the major league level yet. And it's like, you're waiting for the guy to either get off the schneid and just break out or what. And I don't know what it's going to take for him to find that breakthrough. And it has me wondering how long the team's going to have patience waiting for that to happen.
Yeah, well, for me, it's consistency. At the major league level, you need to get consistent at bats, and guys talk about it all the time. I just need my reps. I just need to get my reps. When you get the consistent reps, it takes the pressure off. If you're coming into the clubhouse every day and looking to see if you're going to be in the lineup, okay, I'm in the lineup. I got to get a hit. I got to get a hit. And that swing is pretty violent. So, I just, it's a little bit of watch him go somewhere else and absolutely just take off with consistent playing with the team that's behind, with the organization that's behind him 100%. That has yet to happen. We'll see what happens as the year goes by. But to get back to Brandon, he would be in AAA right now, and he was up there last year. If it wasn't for signing Maldonado and Diaz, who had pushed everyone back down. I know Sully's gone now, but with Campy there and the other catcher, I don't even know who the other catcher is there.
Rodolfo Duran.
Yeah, Rodolfo Duran. So he had to come back down to LA or AA. And it really looks like it's kind of been fortuitous for him and fortunate for him to go down there and, get familiar with hitting again, and not familiar, but just getting his feet underneath him at the plate. I thought he struggled a little bit in AAA last year. I think he was hitting like 1 something, wasn't hitting well at all. So going back to AA, kind of reset, and then we'll see as the season progresses what happens going into next season. So there's still a lot of baseball to be played. We're not even close to the All-Star break for minor league baseball. So we'll see as that season progresses if he keeps doing this, and it's all about consistency, that he finds his way over in El Paso.
Well, somebody who's found some consistency is Romeo Sanabria. He continues to punish Texas League pitching. First baseman turned in yet another multi-hit effort Sunday afternoon, going 3 for 5 with an RBI and a run scored. Sanabria owns a 340 average and an 885 OPS this season, good for first and fourth in the Texas League, respectively.
He is, ladies and gentlemen, if you get a chance to watch AA and you go to MLB, you just scroll down and you see all the affiliate games. Watch a AA game. He's must watch baseball. He's not going to hit bombs all the time, but he's going to get a hit he's going to get hit a lot, and he's constantly getting 2 to 3 hits a game. It's funny when I've been able to put on a few games this week, and I focus on the AA games. As soon as I see him coming up, I stop what I'm doing and I go to watch it. And it's just a smooth, easy stroke. His swing decisions are excellent. The power is starting to come. He was working on. He wanted to hit. I think he wanted to hit 25 homers this year. I'm not sure where he's at, but he's hitting the ball consistently and he's hitting it hard. And that's what I think the organization wants to see. But as a first baseman, he's going to need to start hitting more tanks.
Right. I mean, what his setup and his swing and his approach and everything, it reminds me of a young Adrian Gonzalez. And I know that's reaching high,
Right.
but just the line
fluidity.
drive
Yeah.
approach, the way that he spreads the way that he sprays the ball around, that's kind of what he reminds me of. I don't know if he's going to grow into that kind of power and if he's going to have that kind of consistent hitting at the highest level.
Right.
But I'd like to dream on that.
Absolutely.
All right, so batting around, we've got a little roster note here. The organization's been managing the workload for Braden Nett, who last appeared in a game for the club on May 17th. The righty, who threw only 65 innings last year and had a short offseason between throwing in the Puerto Rico Winter League into December and reporting to big league camp in early February, will likely get another break at some point in the season as he looks to approach doubling his career pitch total this year. So oftentimes we'll notice that guys, it's been he was supposed to pitch today. Why didn't he pitch? What's going
Right.
on? And people will start, swirling the rumor mill. And that's not always the case. Maybe they're just giving a guy a breather because a lot of these guys are still ramping up their. We talk about ramping up as the season goes through, but it's also season to season. And Braden Nett is somebody who, as he told us, he's kind of working his way back into competitive baseball.
Right.
He's been in it a couple years now, but getting up to 150 innings, it takes a couple years to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And the organization knows that. We saw that last year with Jagger Haynes, where we're like, okay, he should be, they should give a breather any day now, but he kept pitching. Every guy's different. So, getting him a breather, managing that workload is going to help him in the future. It's going to avoid the injury risk with him. And, he's a breakout prospect. So you're not handling with kid gloves, you're handling with respect and caution because there's something there. And the Padres see it, the whole league sees it. And I think this, not only scouts, but all the prospect magazines and all the prospect lists are starting to see it as well.
Yeah, last year he pitched 65 innings and then another 17 innings in Puerto Rico. So if he can get up to 130 something innings this year, that would be a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
So number one, stay healthy all year. That's the most important thing. Most important ability is availability.
You gonna do it?
Sure. Okay, I'll take us home. All right. So El Paso painting the corners, left-handed Jackson Wolf
The hell
delivered yet
is
another
back,
solid
dude?
showing Sunday. He allowed just one single through the first 3 innings and carried a shutout into the fifth. He ultimately gave up 4 unearned runs. Unearned runs, mind you. This is AAA. So again, defense, weird stuff happens. He could not get out of the inning to pick up a victory, finishing with 6 hits and 2 walks allowed in 4 2/3 innings while punching out 6, 2 walks to 6 strikeouts.
Yeah.
In total, Wolf garnered 15 total whiffs. And then I chopped out a whole bunch here that Clark clearly put in about induced vertical break and horizontal movement and all this stuff. But long story short, all of his pitches are moving a ton right now. His ERA sits at 2.84 after 25 and a third innings pitched in El Paso. That's hard to do in the Pacific Coast League.
Yeah.
So people were talking about who's going to get this next start. Is Waldron going to come up? Is it going to be Burgert? We now know that it's going to be Ryan Burgert. But Jackson Wolf is a dark wolf to make a start at some point this season, and I think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So then in his first outing since being sent down, Alec Jacob worked a clean inning, striking out 1 while not allowing a walk or a hit. Jacob garnered 2 whiffs in his lone inning, both of which came on a changeup that averaged 17 inches of arm side ride for the afternoon. So Alex Jacob getting sent down, it was coming. I mean, we saw the writing on the wall. He was getting hit pretty hard. And it kind of reminded me of Tom Cosgrove, that he started out just pitching great, living on the edges, and everything was moving right where you needed it to move. When he was missing outside of the zone. And then something changed. And when he was missing, it was right down Main Street.
Right.
And you were seeing, and when he's got tops out at 85, like throwing sliders that just hang right over the middle or fastballs that are just straight down the middle of this of the zone, like you're going to get destroyed by big league
Yeah.
pitching. So Tom, we never really saw him figure out how to find that ability to live on the edges, like a L7. But
Nice.
I hope that Alec brings that back. So then one last point here. Ron Marinaccio earned the save, working 1 1/3 scoreless innings on just one hit with 3 strikeouts. We haven't talked about him a whole lot.
No.
He's the only pitcher on the 40-man roster who has not seen the majors yet. And so seeing Bradgley Rodriguez get called up and seeing David Morgan get called up, I'm sure he's sitting down there in El Paso going, come on, guys.
Right.
I'm right here, right here.
Ready.
So he generated a 43% whiff rate while allowing an opponent xWOBA of 0.000. For the afternoon, the right-hander generated 5 whiffs and a 38.5% whiff rate. So he's getting a ton of swing and miss. I think with him, it's only a matter of time. There's got to be some boxer waiting for him to check before they give him the call because he was pitching with the Yankees last year. He's got major league experience. So he's going to plug into this bullpen at one point or another.
Oh, I thought he was doing the Karate Kid. Isn't that Ralph Macchio? Or no, it's Ron Marcino.
So maybe that's the thing when he gets up on the mountain. Maybe we all get up there in that
the
in the
Karate Kid. All right, so I'll take you home. On the screws, it was in fact Tirso time in Sacramento. Tirso Nellis was the Chihuahuas truly Nolan player of the week. In 6 games, he's hitting .435, 6 doubles, 2 home runs, 1 inside the park. Now, inside park home run, even at say like Southwestern Field in El Paso, is a huge feat for Tirso. He runs well, but he does not run fast. So he had an inside the park homer and 9 RBIs. Now here's, I hate to say it, but like this is what happens with these guys that they get that taste of the big leagues, they come back down and they just rake, and they get up to the major leagues, and it is a different ballgame. It is a different gear in the majors. And I think sometimes that step up, not only is it incredibly difficult, but it zaps you. You get zapped like, oh my God, here I am. All eyes are on me. And it takes time for guys to adjust. And I know I'm going to say it again with Campy and with Tirso, but I think you give those guys reps and they might not get the reps they need for a playoff team like the Padres they may have to get it in another organization. And we love Tirso. We've known him since he was 16. Same thing with Campy, going back to the days when I caught him when he was catching for the All-Star game in high A back, in 2019, I think. But just they might not get the opportunity for the Padres because of the level of play with the Padres and what they need. They need guys to perform right away. And
now I do want to point out that those numbers that you rattled off, he achieved that in a major league venue. They were at Sutter Health Park in Sacramento last week.
Oh, right.
I think it's so weird that Sutter Health Park, like one week it's a big league park, the other week it's a AAA park. Like it's back and forth. It's such a weird thing. But so when Gavin Sheets hit that wall and he was down for a while, that did get me thinking about, okay, next man up. Pearso's got to be the guy to get the call. And I thought just out of precaution that because after the game they said, okay, yeah, his face, he smacked into it and he left an indentation in that wall. You can see in the vinyl where the little ripple where his face hit it, but his hip and his hand and it like 235 pounds of dude slamming into that fence full speed. I'm surprised he's not hitting the injured list. And it seemed like a great opportunity to call Tirso back up after he's been hitting well. Oh, and by the way, Sutter Health Park is only an hour and a half from Oracle Field. Right. So it made sense to say, hey, Tirso, rather than getting on the shuttle, rather than getting on the charter back to El Paso, you're going to take an Uber down to San Francisco and check into the Waldorf Astoria or wherever they stay for some 5-star treatment. But it sounds like that's not in the plans right now.
It's not. And, I saw that play and, your run-of-the-mill outfielder catches that ball. Like that ball hit the top of the fence there and should have been caught. we love Sheets, holy Sheets. We're all about the Sheets, but he is not an outfielder. He is almost exclusively a DH guy. He's an occasional outfielder when necessary, but right now it's necessary. And you're seeing what happens when guys that don't play left field, they run into the wall and they miss balls that should have been caught. Like that would have been caught and would have been a great play. Say if Brandon Lockridge was there, it would have been, I think it would have been caught. He's a little bit quicker, a little bit better outfielder. Instead, our thump in the lineup went boom, and he's out for at least for a game. Come off the bench. I don't. We'll see what happens with the game tonight, but like, sometimes you're a danger only a danger to the team, but you're also a danger to yourself when you're not, you're playing out of position, for instance.
Right. I mean, he's played plenty of outfield, but yeah, it's clear that like he didn't know how to feel the warning track under his feet
Right.
and ease up. Like that's where you see
Right.
the guy take the step and they hear crunch, crunch, and then they jump and they brace for that impact with the wall. There was none of that.
Right.
Like he ran into that thing full force, and he's like, he's your size. He's about as big as you. Like weight wise, right?
Well, he's got a lot more muscle than me. Mine's all kind of like midsection weight. I've got that midsection weight going on. Um, thanks, dude.
All right. Well, speaking of that midsection weight, it's getting to be dinner time.
Yep,
I think it's time to pack it in here. What do you think, Donovan?
absolutely. And you can find me on Twitter and Blue Sky at SD Donovan.
All right. I'm at zippy_TMS. You can cut the underscore out on Blue Sky, but come find me.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. We'll see you next time, guys.
Next time.